This video is brought to you by my new book, Cryptid and Other Stories of the Bizarre and Terrifying. If you're looking for something to give you some nightmares before bed, then feel free to check out the links in the description. The Fatal Frame games are a series of Japanese horror titles that I had been curious about for years, ever since I saw rental copies in a video shop of the first 3 games for PS2, but I never got a chance to rent them. It wasn't until the second entry, Crimson Butterfly, was finally ported to the Wii that I could finally try the series out. And on that day, I learned the value of adult nappies. So naturally, when the 5th game, Maiden of Blackwater, was coming to the Wii U, I had a growing handful of reasons to buy that console. Then I played it, and it turned out having to wave around the console's tablet like a hyperactive kid's dining tray did not make fighting ghosts more immersive. In fact, it made the experience quite lacking. So when it was announced that Koei Tecmo was remastering and entering the series for current consoles and PC, I was excited. Then I found out it was Maiden of Blackwater, getting the remaster. My excitement turned not to disappointment, but curiosity. Would being free of the Wii U hardware improve the experience? Did the game need much in the way of a graphics overhaul? Did Ren finally tie the knot with his fiancée? Well, buy yourself a nice cold drink, and I'll fill you in. The story of Maiden of Blackwater is split between 3 protagonists' perspectives, Yuri, Ren, and Miku, who are investigating the Japanese mountain of Mount Hikami, a place infamous for its tragic history of suicide. Yuri is assisting a paranormal investigator famous for finding things that have been spirited away, Ren is a folklorist working on a book, and Miku is looking for her mother. These are solid motivations that do get the narrative going, and provide context for why our leads are living near a haunted mountain. But the protagonists as characters lack any real defining characteristics. Something I only just realized while I was writing this review. For example, other than the girls being psychics or Ren being the only dude, there's nothing that will make them stick out to you as characters, but at the same time, there's nothing unlikable about them either. They're inoffensively bland people, who you're only going to really remember for their alternate costumes, some of which provide some pretty nice eye candy, I'm not going to lie. A bigger problem with the story though is its structure. It follows an episodic format that repeats the same beginning and end every time. Start. We need to go up to Mount Hikami to either find someone or something. The ending. We need to get off the mountain with what we found. This sucks a lot of the dread out of the situations the characters find themselves in, because you just know what's going to happen. Compare this though to the structure and setting of the second game in the series, Crimson Butterfly. In that game, the protagonist was looking for her twin sister while they were trapped in a cursed village. Neither could leave until the curse was broken or one of them was sacrificed. Here though, the characters are able to get off the mountain no problem. And while there are forces that do pull them back, there's literally no reason why in the game they can't just cut their losses and leave by just going as far away as possible from the mountain, making the threat that the ghosts pose more lacking in comparison. As a result, Maiden of Blackwater just isn't as compelling or scary as it could have been. However, that doesn't mean this game is not scary. It still manages to get under your skin, and Mount Hikami is a great setting that is dripping in a dark, oppressive blanket of moist dread despite the narrative missteps. It also continues one of my favourite aspects of Fatal Frame, where every time you pick up an item you have to actually watch your character pick it up, knowing that there's a risk a ghost can jump out and grab you. That never fails to get you when the atmosphere manages to pull you in and envelop you in the situation. But of course, the big question is whether or not this game is better now that it's not hampered by the Wii U's hardware. And yes! Yes, it is. It's so much better. The game's defining feature of photographing ghosts to fight them off is actually fun. Now that I don't have to twist my body around like I'm doing the hippy dippy shake. There's also some decent depth to how you fight the ghosts, as you have different films with different pros and cons, special attacks that you can swap out, different characters use 2 different cameras that function differently, and there's even a risk and reward factor, where if you time a shot just right while letting an enemy attack you, you can unleash a volley of extra powerful high-end modeling nailing shots. However though, the combat can drag on from being tense and frightening to more of a groan-inducing chore. This is a result of stronger ghosts being introduced over time and having to fight them, since you don't have the option to just run away like in other horror games. This is made worse if you don't spend the points to upgrade your camera. Combat is of course from the first person perspective, which really does help immerse you in how grim Mount Ikami can be, like in the environments with Resident Evil Revelations. The ghosts too are varied in presentation with their own unique form of movement to keep the player on their toes, but only with a few exceptions. The different movement is the only thing that really separates them, and most function exactly the same, which can be disappointing. However, outside of the gameplay, the other changes made with this remaster are pretty much a mixed bag. The graphics for one have actually held up rather well and look nice at a crisp 1080p resolution on my monitor. The character models look fantastic with plenty of detail on them that stand out against the environments, which are comparatively lacking in the higher resolutions. Up close, the environment is more low poly with muddier textures, making it look like Mount Ikami has been pulled out of a scaled up PlayStation 2 game, with modern character models running around. On the plus side though, the bonus costumes that I mentioned before, they aren't censored anymore. Granted, Koei Tecmo didn't put the original swimsuit skins back in, but this was because of a situation more in line with what happened with the Silent Hill HD collection, rather than outright censorship. So instead, they replaced them with all new swimsuit skins, and with the game's wetness and ghost hostility mechanic tied to procedural moisture, well, it honestly gives the game some really nice eye candy. However, I should make this very clear, when this remaster launched, the PC version was released in an absolutely god-awful state. It has been patched into what it should have been from the get-go, but at launch, even by the low standards of other Koei Tecmo PC ports, this was really bad. Crashing, frame rate hiccups, and the most confounding of all, no mouse support. So if you want to play with a keyboard and mouse at launch, screw you. You had to use a convoluted keyboard-only control scheme in a third-person game in 2021. It honestly just boggles me how it was let out like this, especially since they didn't forget to add mouse support to the PC version of Neo. Like I said though, the PC version is in an acceptable state now, but the fact it was released in that state initially raises serious questions about the competency of Koei Tecmo's QA department, and for that reason alone, I would say that if you do get this game, you should probably get the console versions first to see if you like it. The last thing I have to bring up was a no-brainer addition to the game that has been a staple of games in recent years: a photo mode. This is a lot of fun to play around with, and it's a nice little distraction if the game gets too intense for the easily scared, or if you get tired of fighting the ghost when it starts to get too, well, much of a chore. It's got a versatile selection of customization options that lets the player make some nice photographs with the game's assets, but it's not without its own issues. For some reason, the game has very strict restrictions on when and where you can use the mode, and the models, they fade away if the camera gets too close. So it can actually get pretty bothersome to properly set up certain kinds of photos, but I see this as something that can be easily fixed, on PC at least, with the inevitable mods to follow. And I'm not just talking about the ones we all know you're going to download. Maiden of Blackwater is not the scariest game, nor is it the crown jewel in the Fatal Frame series. What it is a diamond in the rough. There are good ideas here that just didn't reach their full potential that have been made better by this remaster, which itself brings its own flaws to the table but is undeniably the best way to play this game. If you haven't tried Fatal Frame, then Maiden of Blackwater is easily a great introduction, and I do recommend you check it out. If not only to increase the odds of the PS2 trilogy also receiving their own remasters, or the fourth game finally receiving an official English release, but also the possibility of an all-new entry. Check it out, and get ready to bust some creepy Grudge-style ghosts and make Bill Murray proud. Hey, sweet, thanks for checking out this video, I really do appreciate it. If you guys really like the video and you really like the content, feel free to hit the like and maybe the subscribe button as well, that'd be nice. Now as for the next game review, I actually haven't decided on anything yet. A lot of good stuff has come out, like I just got my backer key for Fight Night, and there's the multiplayer for Halo Infinite, so I got a lot of stuff that I need to just pick from right now. As for the movie reviews, they're still in the pipeline, I'm still gonna get them out, but honestly, I just don't know what I'm doing with those anymore, but either way, do expect them at some point in the future. Anyway, I got all that and more coming up, so please stick around.